Hi, I'm Rick, and this is Steve. Welcome to Rock, Shovels, and Manuscripts. And this is episode 2. What are we going to be dealing with, Steve?
Today we're going to talk about, I know it sounds thrilling, but walls.
Well, it really is. It really is thrilling. When you look at archaeology and the Bible, walls are very important. So I'm glad you brought this up.
I think the most famous wall in the Bible is probably the Wall of Jericho.
Absolutely.
So we'll start there.
Great.
Now, you've been there.
I have been by, like most travelers, we've been by Jericho because it's a little scary.
Security risk to actually go to the original site.
Yes.
But about 100 years ago, I think it was, Kathleen Kenyon was actually there and excavated the walls of Jericho.
Yes.
Prior to that time, of course, the doubters said, this story is a myth, it couldn't have happened, it didn't happen.
Right.
So she dug and she found the walls.
Let's see some pictures. Okay, those dual walls, the double walls, obviously to protect Jericho, which was is one of the oldest known cities in the world. But also, this is the idea we have of where Rahab the harlot lived. Is it says she was between the walls, or actually on the inside of the wall, somehow between them. And so I think we also have another picture, don't we? There we have. Now, this is actually of what's the remaining part of the walls, but also tower. And this comes to us obviously from Joshua chapter 6, where it says, "So the people shouted and the priests blew with the trumpets. And it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, that the people shouted with a great shout, and the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city."
See, from my perspective, before I knew anything about archaeology, when I think of a wall, I just think of a big brick wall or cinder block wall. You know, it's this wide, it's a foot wide, and 15 feet tall. And yeah, I can see it falling flat down.
Right.
But now when you look at it, it's really a hill with a fortification on top.
Right.
And it's massive. It would take an act of God to just make it drop down.
Absolutely. And I know we're not going to be dealing with it in this episode, but when the ancient historians talk about the walls of Babylon, these are wide enough that they're driving chariots side by side, racing on the tops of these walls. So they're huge walls.
They're massive fortifications.
Yeah, good point.
In another episode, we're going to talk about tells, and we'll learn a little bit about how these things were built up, and I'm looking forward to that as well.
That will be a telling episode. So let's go on and let's talk about walls.
All right. Well, when you go to Israel, there's certain things that just give you a little more joy than everything else. And it's hard to pick those out because everything's simply amazing. But when my eyes fell upon the Eastern Gate and the walls of the old city, I just knew I was in Israel, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And you walk around the entire walls, but the prime place is the Eastern Gate. I want to show our people what it looks like to go right up to that Eastern Gate and take a look.
That is an amazing picture.
Now, I'm sure some people are thinking, Steve, you said that was a gate. It doesn't look like a gate to me. Well, that is true. This gate was walled up.
Okay, because you can see the arches of what looks
where the
like
gate originally was. This gate is unique for many reasons. First of all, it's the only eastern entrance to the Temple Mount. So this faces the Mount of Olives, and it's the only gate that faces the Mount of Olives.
Okay.
The Mount of Olives is the place where it says when Messiah comes, his feet will touch down. And the obvious implication is he's going to go from the Mount of Olives walking right into the temple through these gates.
Great.
But the gates are closed. I want you to read, if you don't mind, Ezekiel chapter 44, verses 1 through 2.
Sure, be glad to. "Then he brought me back the way of the outer gate of the sanctuary, which looks toward the east, and it was shut. And the Lord said to me, This gate shall be shut, it shall not be opened, neither shall any man enter in by it, for the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it, therefore it shall be shut."
And so during the war, General Allenby of the British, after he seized this area, his men said, "Hey, let's blow open these gates and you can go through." And he said, "Oh no, these gates are not for me to go through."
Wow.
And I can't help but wonder if this is the prophecy that you just read about these very gates at this very time, and that they're going to remain sealed until Jesus actually walks through them himself.
Now, Steve, I got to tell you that to me that's amazing because you're looking at wars that have been fought and all these things that have taken place, and this being now walled up, but Was it the will of the person who did it? Obviously so, but then prophetically, it's already been announced
and
ahead
what
of
makes
time,
it even more amazing is who walled it up and why.
Okay.
This was walled up by Arabs, specifically Muslims. Their mindset was that the Jewish people are expecting their holy man, their Messiah, to come through this gate. So we're going to block it off so he can't do that. Not only are we going to block it off, but we're going to build a cemetery. And to this day, there is a Muslim cemetery right up to the very gate itself. So the only way you can get through that gate in their mindset is walking over a cemetery.
which would pollute the person going through.
Exactly. So they thought there's no way a holy man will ever walk through this gate. But they didn't take a few things into consideration. First of all, Yeshua said, I am the resurrection and the life. So everywhere he puts his foot, conceively bodies could be popping
That's
up
right.
and there wouldn't be any dead bodies there anyway.
There's no pollution.
Yeah. And they were thinking probably Levitical. He's not a Levite. The rules change. It's funny what extent man will go to try to foil God. And it reminds me of Psalm 2. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
The rulers of the earth take counsel against the Lord and against his anointed. And Scripture says God just laughs.
Well, in their process of trying to thwart the plan of God and the Jewish people, they end up fulfilling the prophecy by shutting the gates.
Every time. Can you imagine? Satan put it into the mind of Judas Iscariot to betray Yeshua. And the end result is he saved the world. He died for our sins. You think Satan would have done that if he knew it was going to benefit humanity? So he was a pawn in the hands of God. It's a wonderful thing.
The perfect will of God always outweighs the permissive will of man. Where God does what he's going to do, no matter what man plans.
So a little bit more about this gate. All the walls around the old city, which is, the most noticeable part about Jerusalem today, with the Dome of the Rock, of course, were rebuilt by Sultan Suleiman in like the 15th, 16th century, except for this gate. This one wasn't even rebuilt by Herod. So it's believed that this gate, or at least the foundations of this gate, go all the way back possibly to Solomon's temple. Definitely to Nehemiah's temple.
Wow.
So this gate is unique on several levels.
Now, if I remember correctly, this is where a Christian archaeologist happened to be going through and filming one morning and actually broke through a tomb accidentally. He fell to the bottom of this, and he was the first person who's ever taken a picture of now what we know is the earlier archway that shows the antiquity of this area. He came out, he went to go get Israeli authorities to take a look at this and get some official pictures going. It had already been concreted back over again by the time he got back there within just a couple of hours. Very sensitive area, but very ancient.
Very ancient. Well, I want to give people a sense of the scale of this gate. So I've got a picture taken back from the Mount of Olives. And I'm standing there with some of the people on the tour we're at. And we're overlooking the area. We're talking about the end days. But the little arrow points to the gate, just to give an idea of the length of these walls. This is the eastern wall of the Temple Mount, the Temple platform. Herod extended the entire Temple Mount, and he extended these walls. So the way it went originally is, we'll go back at least to Nehemiah's day. He rebuilt the walls. When the Maccabees had this area, they extended the walls.
Okay.
And then when Herod had the area, he extended the platform and the walls.
Okay.
It was an amazing engineering feat. To this day, people are just amazed at what Herod was able
because it's
to
a raised
accomplish.
up area, so it's going to have areas that go down lower.
Yep, and
so
you have to fill and
Exactly.
a massive amount of work. So the next photo is just kind of an emotional one. First time I'm at the gate, I'm standing up against it, and the sun is just peeking over it.
Now you're almost at the foot of the gate, looking straight up almost.
I am touching that gate. I crawled over that cemetery, hopped a fence, and got right up against the gate. I figured it might spark an international incident. I don't care.
The picture
I'm going
was
up to
worth
that
it.
gate. I'm going to touch that gate. It meant that much to me.
Wow.
So when the sun was just peeking over it, it was just rich. I had to take a photo of it and share it with everybody. So this is the eastern wall. I want to jump around to the other side now, to the western wall.
Okay.
This is probably next to the Wall of Jericho, the most famous wall in the world.
Yes.
Well, for Judaism anyway, next to the Great Wall of China.
Yes.
This western wall, or known as the Wailing Wall, some people think it's the wall of the temple. It's not.
Why is it called the Wailing Wall by some?
It's called the Wailing Wall because Jewish people would come here and pray and remember and look forward to God returning people to Israel, rebuilding of the temple. It's the time where the lost fortunes of Israel are recalled. It's one of the holiest sites in all of Judaism. And people come here and they just pour out their hearts before God.
Got it.
So we call it the Wailing Wall. The Israelis today don't call it the Wailing Wall. They call it Hakotel. They just call it the wall, or maybe the Western Wall. This is not a temple wall. This is one of the walls of the, it's a retaining wall.
Okay.
I told you Herod expanded the temple platform. In order to do that, he had to build up retaining walls around the mountain that he leveled and adjusted.
That makes sense.
On top of this would have been yet another wall, a higher wall. We'll talk about that in a moment. But there's something on this wall that I want to point out, a few things. Not all of these stones on this wall are original to the days of Herod.
Yeah, you can even tell that they're different.
Yeah.
It looks like the ones on the bottom are very different from the middle and then very different from the top.
I'll show some close-ups in a little bit. I don't remember the number, so I'm just going to throw this out there. It's wrong, but it'll give people a concept. Maybe 20% of these stones are the stones King Herod had put there. The rest, you know, they replaced, fell down, cracked, stolen, replaced, you know, over time.
Sure.
So some of them are original, some of them are not. Off to the left in the photo, you see an archway.
Yes.
This archway, which is about maybe 10 feet above ground right now, the top of that arch, the bottom of the arch that we can see, in the days of Jesus, this supported a bridge. This bridge crossed over a valley from the upper city to the Temple Mount. That valley's gone. You can't see it now. It's built over. This was actually 70 feet high.
Wow.
So this thing you can almost jump up and touch the top of is not what it looked like in Yeshua's day.
Do you have an image we can look at to show it in proportion to what it was?
Yes, and the Wailing Wall as well. You notice that red outlined area?
Yes.
That's the Wailing Wall today. To give you an idea of the scope and the size of this wall, that's the portion that people pray at today. And
So
you can
that's
see
what's visible today.
Exactly.
Where the people go to pray.
Yes.
Wow.
And that arch, the one on the left there, you see just the tip of that today.
Okay, so from the red outline, that is what people go to and walk to today.
Yep.
To the left of that is that 10-foot area that is in reality 70 feet.
Off the ground.
That's amazing.
And now, when you go to Israel, they have underground tunnels. So you can actually go there and see the bottom of the wall.
After our break, are you going to take us through those?
Oh, you know it.
I want to make sure because, I mean, that's amazing. When I'm looking at that picture, it just really gives a proportion to how big and massive this thing was. Just incredible. Wow. Okay, so we're going to come back and do that. Don't go away. We've got a lot more that we're going to be dealing with. So when we're looking at walls, we'll see you in a minute. Welcome back to Rock, Shovels, and Manuscripts. I'm here with Steve, and wow. Now, you made a promise. You said you would take us into the tunnels below the Kotel.
I am going to, but not yet. We've got some more stuff to see upstairs.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, there's
Okay,
more.
all right.
First thing I want to do is show a close-up of that arch, just to give people a little perspective and scope, see people coming and going.
This is Wilson's Arch.
Wilson's Arch,
Okay.
because the man who discovered it, his name was Wilson.
Okay.
The people coming and going are men, because this is the man's entrance to the synagogue.
Gotcha.
So how cool was it for me to discover for the first time on my first trip to Israel that if I walk through that arch, I end up in a synagogue?
Oh, that is.
Oh, it was a beautiful discovery because I didn't know it was in there. I just, people are walking in, let's go see.
So the Kotel is to the right in that picture. Wilson's Arch is directly in the center right now.
Right.
Okay.
And if you go inside of that arch, you're in the synagogue. Okay. Upstairs is the women's section, and the women's section has access to the Rabbinic Tunnels.
Neat. And that's the tunnels that you promised you're going to take us into.
But not yet.
Okay. But wait, there's more.
I want to give everybody, well, it's both a Steve's eye view and a bird's eye view. If they were standing there today, what would they see? So I pulled out my camera, and I took some footage, and I'd like to share that with our people right now.
Let's see it. Okay, now where are we at?
Well, we're looking at the arch dead ahead.
Wilson's Arch.
Yep.
Okay.
These are the men praying. the man who's moving in front of us. This is what Jewish people call davening. When you pray and you bend your knees and you bow before God, it's known as davening. And I saw this collection of birds, and I just thought it would make some good footage.
How high that wall is even today.
Yeah, and that's only a fraction of the height of the wall. There was another wall on top of this wall.
Oh my goodness.
And we'll talk more about that in a few moments. Now, some of these walls, like I said, are original Herodian walls. King Herod had them built. Some of them aren't. I will show you how to identify those and show you some close-ups. Now, as we swing over to the right here, we're going to see the ladies section of the wall right in front of us. That's the ladies section right there. So that's about the end of the video.
Okay.
I've got some other footage, maybe for another day, that where I did a 180 and I just swung around and showed the back side of the plaza, the prayer plaza as well.
But that's a big, when you think of walls, I mean, that's a huge wall right there, and you're saying that's only part of the original structure.
Maybe 10%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just stunning to see.
It really shows the grandeur of what we study in the scriptures of, this incredible Temple Mount that was built for the glory of God.
Yeah, this Temple Mount and the temple on top of it was one of the wonders of the world at that time. It's not like they had a list of wonders, but everybody talked about the temple, and people would come to see it, not just Jews, just because it was a magnificent facility. In fact, on top, there was a place that's today called the Royal Stoah. It was a colonnaded porch, almost like a basilica, and it went from the east to the west on the south side of the Temple Mount. And it was at that time the biggest building in the world.
In the world?
In the world. So that's not even the temple. That was just, a gathering place in front of it. So the wonders just, they never cease.
Okay, well, keep walking us through this, because this is really amazing.
Okay, so the next shot I have is a man praying at the wall.
Okay.
And to me, that just picture is a keeper. And I've got a little arrow pointing at something, if you'll notice that in the lower left portion of the screen.
Okay.
The original Herodian stones were outlined. They were embossed.
Okay.
Kind of a square within a square.
Yes.
So every time you see an embossed stone, and the ones in front of this man right to his left is also embossed.
I see that.
That's an original Herodian stone.
Okay.
So you notice those are, but the ones right above are not, and the ones next to those are not. Every time you see the square within a square, you know that's a Herodian stone.
Okay.
And the way this course of wall was laid down is one course would be offset by about 1 inch, and the next course by about 1 inch, so that as you looked at the wall, it kind of receded a little to help with the visual effect of the wall. These guys were brilliant. They were amazing builders. Now, the next photo is me standing at a stone I found at the wall, not the western wall right there.
That's a massive stone.
Isn't it, though? It's amazing. And it's marble. Well, I knew that the original stones, the ones that showed in beautiful places, were marble. So I don't know why this stone is here, why it's surrounded by all the ugly stones, but I just wanted to show what one of the amazing stones looked like.
That is just huge. And I don't believe that's the largest stone either, is it?
No, in a few moments, I'm going to show you a stone that dwarfs this stone.
Wow.
A few minutes ago, we saw this man standing at the wall. And I don't know if our viewers noticed, but all around the wall were a bunch of cracks with what appeared to be white specks within the cracks.
Yeah, I noticed that.
This is a close-up. You'll notice almost every crack has what appears to be a little piece of paper in it. And yet I have a closer vision still.
Oh.
This view, people will come up to the wall and they will slip little prayers inside the wall. And so the entire wall is shoved with little prayer slips. I don't know, it's not quite superstition, but this is, like I said, one of the holiest spots in Judaism. This is where Jewish people bring their prayers, and it's become a custom to, when you visit the wall, putting a slip into the wall.
It's as though physically it's as close as you can get to where the original presence of God was on the Temple Mount.
It was for some time. Until they started digging underneath and got closer. You ready to go underneath?
I'm ready to go underneath. You promised.
Let's go underground.
All right,
this next photo I took is of the biggest stone.
That is massive.
You're not seeing the whole stone here. This is as wide as my camera went.
Okay.
This stone is arguably the largest carved stone in the world. It is one piece. It is 44 feet long. So this photo is what, 10 feet?
Yes.
It's only a fraction of the wall.
Wow.
It weighs 570 tons, and it's roughly 12 to 16 feet deep. Now, to give our viewers a little scope, the greatest stone on the Great Pyramid of Egypt weighs 11 tons.
Wow.
This one weighs 570 tons.
That's amazing.
The question is, how did they get it there?
That's my question.
So there is a lot of brilliant speculation. There's been some reading from ancient documents and manuscripts on how they've moved things. But something of that size, it's just stunning to the human mind how it could have happened.
And that is the retaining wall? Is that what you said?
Yeah, this would be the foundation stone of part of the retaining wall.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's massive. It's really
it's almost like, let me show you what I can do. You know, it's showing off.
So how long is this area, that you talked about, the Rabbi's Tunnel?
The Western Wall itself, I don't have the dimensions in front of me. I'm trying to think. You know, you walk through it from end to end. I'm sorry, I don't have that data in front of me.
Well, yeah, but you just gave us, I mean, this what did you say? It was like 60 feet. And that's just a small portion of this
No,
thing.
this is a walk.
So do you have some kind of an angle we can look at that would show us the length of this thing?
A piece of the length.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the next shot. I like this photo simply because it's beautiful. I like the lighting.
Oh, my goodness.
This is a very narrow portion of the wall. So what you're looking at is I'm standing at that stone. That stone is towards the southern end of the Western Wall. We're looking north. So we're looking towards Wilson's Arch. And this is the direction we walk, the length of the stone.
And this is only a part.
Only a part.
Okay.
I'm going to show you some more photos in a minute. But before we get away from that massive stone, I want to show you a photo of a very interesting situation that happened. You're going to see a photo of me, of my friend and guide, Boaz.
Okay.
You notice he has a yarmulke on because you're not allowed in the presence of the wall without a yarmulke on. You notice I have a yarmulke on. A yarmulke doesn't have to look religious. It just has to cover your head.
Yes.
So this is my yarmulke cap.
So actually at a ball game, a baseball game, everybody's
wearing
Jewish.
yarmulkes.
Okay.
This guy, as you can see, is very religious. And he came up and he smiled and he looked very humble and very timid, and he started to talk to us. Well, I don't speak fluent Hebrew, so he's talking to the guide who does, and I asked him what's going on. And my friend looked perturbed. And he said, he can't walk through. So what we're facing, my back's up against the big stone. What I'm facing is a stairway. That's how we got down to it. And on the stairs is my busload of people. Men and women. Some on the left of the stairs, some on the right of the stairs. This rabbi has to walk past the women to get up the stairs. He's not allowed to do that in his belief system.
Okay.
So he's asking for help. We don't move all the women. He asks my friend to take his hand and walk him up through the women, which he does. And so I asked my friend, this is new to me. I've never seen this before. He says, and it's also annoying. I said, why is that? He said, he thinks it's a sin to walk through the women, but if I lead him, then I carry the sin. So in a sense, he's asking me to sin for him.
Wow.
And that's why he was annoyed.
I had no idea.
I didn't either. So it was an amazing situation, and after all these years, you still learn more things.
So when it's called the Rabbi's Tunnel, really there are rabbis down there that are praying.
Yes, there are.
And studying.
Yes, there are. And it's also just a shortcut.
Okay.
You can avoid the shops above, the cityscape. Mostly Jewish people down here, so you don't have to walk through all the Arab section. It's a nice little shortcut. And some people do use it. So this next shot, you asked if that was the whole thing. I said no. This gives you a little more. The other was surrounded by wood.
That's beautiful.
There was no wood here. This is just an arch. Now, the Romans invented the arch. That is, for building purposes. It was extremely strong. What they learned is if you elongate the arch, you can hold up more. So basically, what we saw was a very long arch. Now, I want to jump forward to a picture of my feet. Well, not my feet, but some friends' feet. Let's take a look.
Okay.
What you're looking at are the feet of the people on my tour and some other people. But the reason I'm showing you their feet is because what they're standing on is original pavement from the days of Jesus.
Wow.
They are standing on stones that almost certainly the Lord himself stood upon.
That is amazing.
It was a goosebump moment.
How much lower is that from street level?
Well, it depends on which side of the Temple Mount it is because it slopes down.
Okay.
Where Wilson's Arch is, it's 70 feet.
Okay.
But this is much further north. It's much higher,
Okay.
so it's not as deep
Okay.
underground.
Okay.
I wanted to tie that picture to a passage of Scripture, just to bring this to some spiritual significance. Would you mind reading 1 John 2:6 for me?
Sure. He that says that he abides in him, being Messiah, ought himself also to walk even as he walked.
So we're standing in the footsteps of Jesus, and right now I'm thinking, you know what, that's cool, that gives me goosebumps, but it's more important, not that I walk where he walked, but I walk how he walked, in gentleness, humility, and love.
That's amazing. And by the way, your last picture was quite a feat for you to take.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this is an amazing show because you're showing us things that we haven't seen probably before. And not just that, but relating it back to the Bible so that we can make direct application for our lives.
Absolutely.
What's coming up next?
Well, we've got a lot to look at. We're going to look at tells, we're going to look at pools, we're going to look at some exciting things in the Holy Land.
Okay, so don't go away. Join us next week for Rocks, Shovels, and Manuscripts with Rick and Steve.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
This episode was produced by and for God's Learning Channel. If you're enjoying this series, your financial support will help us keep this program on the air. Simply send your contribution to God's Learning Channel, P.O. Box 61,000, Midland, Texas 79711-1000, or log on to our website at www.glc.us.com and donate using PayPal. Please be sure to designate which program your contribution is intended to support. Thank you for helping us make unique quality programming a reality.
Order your copy of this program from the GLC bookstore by calling the numbers or visiting the website on your screen. Please include the program number when ordering.